Welcome everyone to Refueling Station Live. I am Dr. Erin Wheeler, and Refueling Station Live is a place where leaders of color can find inspiration to live, do, and be well. And your host, Dr. Erin, I'm a nationally respected success and leadership coach. And I also have 15 years of experience in higher education nonprofit leadership. So, welcome. If you're new here, welcome. I hope you'll have a chance to get to know me throughout our journey on Refuel Station Live. And the reason I call it live is because there is a newsletter that I created, took a leap of faith about 6 weeks ago, and I published it in the middle of the night. And on a Sunday night at 9, and I woke up to almost 100 subscribers. And it was one of those things where you're hoping that people will read it, but you put it out just because you know you need to do it. And I would like to thank everyone, especially those who are connected to me on LinkedIn. The newsletter really put a fuel in my fire, and it prompted me to do Refueling Station Live. So welcome, Glennis. Thank you for joining. So today I want to talk to you about burnout. And actually, burnout is the reason why I am here sitting on this live about. I don't want to date myself. I think I did when I told you about my leadership experience, but it was around 2014, 13 when I just finished my PhD. Kind of really was an post grad. I went straight from undergrad to finishing my doctoral degree. I didn't have a break, so I went straight through. So the post grad blues hit me hard, and I just remember my first professional job. It was great, but as all first professional jobs were, in higher education around the time of huge job cuts to education around the country, especially Louisiana, I was underpaid. I was underwhelmed with my career. I was very unsatisfied. I couldn't move no matter how many degrees I had. I couldn't find anything. Kept getting rejected job after job. If you know how that feels, put something in a comment. But I was just in a place where I was literally just existing. It was a great place, great place to have on your resume, but I was not feeling it at all. And so just, after graduating, I heard, oh, to get better, this is the way it's supposed to be, blah, 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 blah. I just couldn't accept that was the way it was going to be for me. So I just remembered being in a place where I was waking up only to feel tired. As soon as I got home from work, I went to sleep around 7 o'clock. Like I was just done. Um, and I realized I didn't know at the time, but I was truly burnt out. I didn't have anything to give. I was on edge. Physically, I wasn't feeling well. Emotionally, I wasn't having it. Mentally, I wasn't there. Financially, I was hanging on. And if you know me, you probably congratulated me on the house, my new doctoral degree that I finished, doing well. All of it was looking well on the surface. But again, I was burnt out and I didn't know it. And what prompted me to get out was just questioning, is this the way it should be? So in that prompting, I started to just figure out, what do you really want? Why are you unhappy? What can you do better? What would you rather be doing? Having that, I don't know if the time was bold or not. I don't know what prompted it, but I'm glad that it did. But it really, when I look back at that time, everything I put on that paper, and I wish I still had it, I'm doing now. And it led me to just keep fighting to get out of funk after funk and realize that if I'm unhappy, I have the power to change it, right? And so for me, burnout really led to this place and realizing that it wasn't just me, it wasn't a personal attack on me. We have so many things, the systemic racism, how we were trained to learn about work in this country and how it's tied to our identity, and being told how higher education success was the golden ticket to life. Like, you graduate, everything's going to be great. The jobs are going to flood in, six figures are going to come. You're supposed to do, if you do what you're supposed to do, everything's going to come right. That did not happen. And now I know it wasn't just me. And I am in this path of leadership coaching and success coaching. This is my passion because I saw so many people, I see so many people today on the path to burnout. And it's super important, as I learned the hard way, that it's not just about work. It's not about just isolated to work in your career, that it has a real effect on your body. And you got to question at some point, is it really worth it, right? Is all the stress really worth it? Are you getting stressed out by something that you don't even really truly want? You're still unsatisfied? Is it fear? So all of those questions, maybe not in today's live, but in the lives to come, we'll start to tackle some of those questions. But today we're going to tackle the why, who, what, when of burnout, right? So burnout is important, especially to leaders of color, again, because we don't talk about it. It goes right along with that conversation about mental health. Mental health, we are doing better. We're doing so much better as a community, talking about getting help and figuring things out and really finding help, connecting and putting our own health and sanity in our own hands instead of hiding and just saying I'm fine. But in that context, I know a lot of people might be experiencing depression, anxiety, and it may be from some other trauma or things in your life, but you may need to ask yourself the question, am I in the cycle of burnout? Is it burnout? Right? Because if you can identify it, there's ways to change it. So it's really, really important to the community, to leaders of color, because it's literally killing us. Research shows that burnout has a tremendous impact on our mental and physical well-being. And it's robbing us. If you're burnout, you're just existing. And at some point, it is robbing you of the life and the days that you have that you are intended not to live just existing. Is robbing you of the time. So I want to make sure that you understand what it is so you can identify it in your own life and you can take actions to get out. So what is burnout? The clinical definition, research definition. It's a lot of definitions out there if you actually Google burnout. I'm going to give you a very general one, right? So it is the emotional and exhaustion that stems from poorly managed workplace stress. That's one of the definitions. If I was an actual researcher in this, I would add, for people of color, it does not just have to do with the workload. It's just not that stress. Like, we have a million projects and this deadline is tight, right? It's not just that. For people of color, our burnout increase, and actually multiplies because we have to show up as as a version of our inauthentic selves to survive workplace cultures, to survive the toxic cultures, the microaggressions, the blatant or the hidden racism that we have to show up, not just in the workplace, but just in the stores, like everywhere we go, we have to deal with this, whether it's unconscious or not. So that accelerates our burnout, and again, accelerates the effect it has on our mental and physical well-being. So, Dr. Wheeler, I hope you're asking, what are the characteristics of burnout? How do I know if I'm burnout? What is it? So, for one, it's three characteristics: fatigue, it's cynicism, and it's a personal feeling of inefficacy. So I'll start with the first, fatigue. Fatigue is a tiredness that no amount of sleep can restore, right? It's more than physical tiredness. So even if you are one of those people who I am trying to be like going to the gym, actually, like, I'm excited to go to the gym, I'm walking, I love salads, I love fruit. No, I'm not going to eat those Chick-fil-A fries. If you're one of those people and you are doing what you're supposed to do and you still can't find the energy, chances are it's a fatigue. It's not a physical tiredness. Physical tiredness, you can take a nap, you can drink some water, get some fruit, a smoothie, take a rest, take a walk, and be fine, right? This kind of fatigue is a emotional and mental fatigue. You don't have emotional energy to care about anything, and you don't have the mental energy to even figure things out, right? You're just over it. Been there, definitely have done that. I can remember every morning I would wake up tired. You remember I said I went to bed at 7 p.m. During the one of the major burnout times in my life. I would literally say goodbye to my pillows and my sheets and my blankets every morning. Just like, I miss you and I can't wait to come back home to get to you. Like, it was just like I had no energy to do anything. I just remembered not even eating dinner. It could have been chips and salsa I ate and went to bed. Like, I had no I just couldn't figure out what to cook, what to eat. That was too much for me. So that's fatigue. If you have those feelings where you can go to sleep for 8 hours and you wake up and you can't seem to get it together, or you are just, there's this like tiredness in your soul, like you just can't handle one thing, that's fatigue. So that's one of the hallmark characteristics of burnout. The second is cynicism. So this is where you're once excited and now you're negative about everything. You're skeptical, you're unhopeful. For me, many of you know I started off as a college coach. I was so excited to help students with their ACT, get them into college, talk to parents about being prepared in ninth grade and all of these things. At some point, I know the point, we'll get to that maybe another live. But when I started to just be overwhelmed by the systemic issues in higher education, whether it's my journey as an administrator or just different places where where I'm seeing the issues, the bigger issues that I feel like I can't solve. Once I started seeing that over and over again, I started seeing student after student after student, same problem. They won't listen. I know this stuff works, but they just, you see the same story semester after semester. It was at a point where I was almost about to tell a student, just don't worry about it. Don't, why? Why go to college? Why even apply? Like, it's not going to work. And I knew that that's not the reality, especially for students of color. We do need it, right? Minority, first gen, we need that. But when I felt like that was about to come out, I knew I needed to step away. I was cynical. It was a burnout piece for me. And I knew I needed to pivot, switch gears, and question. I didn't want to fully step away from higher ed, but I just needed some time away, right? And so it could be where you not only are skeptical or unhopeful, you become less patient with your colleagues. You're snapping at your staff. You put in less effort. You might, at one time you were happy to come into work, didn't want to take time off because you knew you had to get stuff. Now it's like, you know what? I'm calling in sick. I can't deal with it today. I'm not sick. I'm not coughing. My stomach doesn't hurt. I just can't do this today. So it's less effort. And it begins to ball over to your personal life too, a little bit. The third characteristic of burnout is cynicism. I'm sorry, it's feelings of inefficacy. This is where you feel like no matter what you do, this is a personal, right? So the cynicism is kind of like, this isn't working. Whatever methods we're using isn't working. Feelings of inefficacy start to become about you. I'm not equipped to do this. I'm not using the right words. Whatever I'm doing, my ability is gone. I can only imagine how it was in COVID or teaching or being a nurse, seeing people that you really couldn't help. Like, you start to question, there's no amount of training that prepared me for this. Can I do it? Is it even possible? And you feel like you can no longer make a difference. And I know people, especially in the helping professions, medical, mental health, education, this comes up a lot, right? It feels like you can't make a difference. Nothing's going to change. The system's not going to change. I'm not cut out for this. It's just, and it just, you begin to question your effectiveness to do the actual work. And those feelings again spills over to your personal life. You start to question if you are a good friend, a good sister, a good wife, a good husband, anything. So that's how those are characteristics of burnout. So burnout is not necessarily a cut and dry. It's a spectrum. It's a cycle. It's not a it can go from 0 to 100. So we can enter the burnout cycle and we can exit it. But how do we get there? Like, how do you find out that you burn out? It happens over time. So burnout and stress is a time thing. You can be stressed, it can go away a little bit in a little while. It's temporary. Prolonged stress leads to burnout. So that is a cycle. You can go from a little stress over time to a lot of stress is compounded. So, how do we enter the burnout? Let's go to enter and then we can talk about exiting. You just become over it all. Life, work, you are just existing. I just remember being a shell. I was showing up to church, family gatherings. I was just showing up, but I really wasn't all there. I was just keeping up appearances because I couldn't really tell people what I really felt. Because that at that point I just felt like I was being ungrateful for what I had. Like I had everything people wanted, but I it wasn't what I wanted, right? Um, and you get into the state of existing. You don't pause or you're not present to take a pulse on your life. You're just going through the motions. Like if you and in burnout, you can either underwork or overwork. So sometimes you can be burnout and you can overwork, which meaning you're going to just get stuff done so you can just get through the day. Whatever it takes. You can not eat, you cannot drink, you can you just don't even think about exercising. You just go straight from work to home to sleep to do it all over again, right? And that's when you start ignoring the warning signs. If you're not eating regularly, you're not taking care of yourself, you're not checking in on yourself, you're not taking that pulse, then your body's going to tell you, it's time to lay down. But we ignore them. And so we get further and further into that burnout cycle till it's a little stress, till it's a lot of stress, a prolonged stress. And that's when it starts hitting your body, right? So if you are having headaches, unexplainable body aches, you're not sleeping, you're irritable, you're snapping at people. If that sounds familiar, you might have to rethink some things, right? And at that time, you just take medicine, you get over it, right? Take some Excedrin. I remember thinking back now that I'm in this, studying this and becoming, diving deeper into this because it's a really great interest to me. It's, I can remember times going through a bottle of Excedrin, just just have a headache. I just had migraines all the time. So I don't know what I thought, but now it's like, yeah, my body gave me warning signs. I just kept popping pills instead of asking what's the root cause. So one question that, so everybody can be burnout. Everybody can enter this cycle, but there's certain types of people that find themselves susceptible to burnout. And I'm being transparent. I'm talking about burnout. It's not like I recognized it, got better, never entered. I've had various periods where I found myself in this cycle. Maybe not to the extent because I know how to pull myself out, but there are certain people who are susceptible. And I'm an overachiever. And if you're an overachiever, you're susceptible to burnout because you're trying to reach this goal. Perfectionists fall in that category. I'll raise this hand. Perfectionists fall into that category. People who, and it's a lot because of the way we are taught about careers and work in this country, that is tied to our identity and our worth and our value. People who feel like their job is their calling or gives meaning to their life, they're going to find themselves burnt out because they don't want to stop. They don't want to change if something's making them unhappy. They don't want to rethink it. They want to keep going because they can't lose this, right? Because that's gonna do something to me personally. People who see their jobs as their calling, which is slightly different. But if you're in a helping profession, if you're in teaching education, even nursing, even though it's higher pay, the work doesn't equal up to the pay. People do that because they have a calling to help people. It's not necessarily the money, they will do it, but they have a calling. And so when it's tied to your calling, it's tied to something bigger, you're going to keep going without taking time to pause or reassess your situation. And thirdly, people of color, we have an inherited legacy of trauma. It's like our gun was preloaded. We were preloaded with stress from ancestors going through slavery and all the things in this country. We're preloaded, so we're susceptible as well. Plus, how we were taught about work, the twice as hard notion, there's nothing better. You better get this money. There's like all of those things are burning us out. How we think about it burns us out. So now you know the who, the what, the how we enter. How do we mentally exit the burnout cycle? And I put mentally because you have to. It starts in your mind first. I can tell you when I exited. I want to tell a Cat Williams joke, but not this time. But when I exited, nothing happened. Right? Nothing. It wasn't any bells ringing. Nothing changed. There's no dramatic change. It was just that I'm plotting my path out. No matter how it goes, I'm plotting my path out. I don't have a parachute. I don't know what's next, but I have to get out. And so the mental part comes first. In the next series of live, we'll talk about some other ways you need to shift out of burnout that can also help you. But you have to get in your mind first to do a mental exit. The first thing you need to do to mentally exit the burnout cycle is identify where you are dissatisfied. That sounds simple, but sometimes it scares us. Opening our mouths to put it on paper to say why we are dissatisfied, just like me. I said, a 9-to-5 life isn't for me. I needed more flexible time. If I'm really honest, I really do enjoy doing anything else other than work. People know me know that I don't want to work for a living. I can be productive. I just need my needs met and my quality of life to be kept up, but I will happily do anything else. I'll find joy working for my church and making sure things come about. I enjoy helping my family in their business. I enjoy being there for other people. I'm not saying no to the people I love. That was on the top of my list. And those are my points of dissatisfaction. I didn't have time for it. I was tired. I didn't have the money for it. Anything outside of life, I just felt trapped. Putting that on paper was scary, right? So first you have to identify where you're dissatisfied. What's burning you out? What's taking your energy? And be very specific. It could sound silly. It could be, I hated traffic. That was on my list. I don't want to spend my life in traffic where I live 20 minutes away. And I can easily drive at 9 and get to work in 20 minutes, right? That was a major thing. I just felt myself angry in traffic for 4 hours a day. I was angry in the morning. I was angry when I came home. It would just took up. When I counted the hours, I could be doing so much more, right? Second thing, envision what you want. What do you want? For me, it was I want to own my own companies. I actually put in 2014, I wanted to own a nonprofit. I want to own my own consulting company. Did it happen in 2014, 15, 16? No, it didn't. But I was always plotting to get to that point. When I knew what I wanted to do, I felt joy, even just working to get there. I was on the path. The next thing you need to do is prioritize and streamline. I have this saying, busy and productive are two different things. And most times we're busy. We're busy doing what everybody else wants. And, sometimes it's a glorified badge of us ripping and running. For what? So you had to streamline. I streamlined. I said, okay, well, things that are important to me is my relationship with God. And not only that, working in the church. So I'm going to put that first. Family, second. Business, third. Everything else, I don't have money or the time for. If I have it at that moment, I will do it. But it's probably going to be a no for right now, or maybe. I can't commit to that. So I streamlined and prioritized, and I made sure that I had enough. I did what I needed to do and had enough for what I needed to do. Right. Outline your first steps to put you on your path to your dreams. Right. 2014, I can remember having, I can't remember the name, but it was like a think tank. And that was the beginning of me assembling my circle of people to think about the nonprofit. So nonprofit didn't happen until 6 years later, but putting that together made me actually start thinking about what's possible, the future. It was my first steps. Did it lead to immediate action? No, but it put me in that path. And I still use those notes from from the 2014 meeting that I had to 2018 or 19 when I actually did it. So you have to first outline your steps. My steps is cutting down my cost of living, making more money, saving so I can exit a job and do that. God had other plans for me, but we'll get to that later. And lastly, you have to eliminate the fear. This is scary. It's scary to change. It's scary to think about, but sometimes the scariest things is what if it happens? What if it happens? What do I have to give up to do this? It's scary to leave a job that covers your livelihood. It's scary to do that, but then it's also scary to think what's the cost on your mental emotional health. It's scary to think that there's something you're missing better on the other side because you're in fear to even think about what you really want to do. And you also have to again think about the cost of burnout. Every time I found myself on the very edge of it, I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital. It was one of those, and I can even back in college, I can remember the times where I went to the nurse and she was like, you're glowing. Everything's perfect. Your stats are good. I can't find anything wrong with you except your heart rate is up. There was no signs of sickness, but I felt like death. And so it was just simply rest, right? I found myself in those similar situations. I am in recovery, right? So I'm not going to say I'm perfect, but I know now it's a fight for me to stay sane and stay healthy and not let uh, not let notions of success and productivity get to me. I have to set my own standards of success, my own standards of productivity. So that is all I have about burnout. But I do have one challenge for you. I need you by Sunday night, if you choose to accept this challenge. It is so simple, but it's so powerful. And it's the exact same thing I did to get me on the path that made me the most fulfilled and satisfied. By Sunday night, I need you not to just think about it. I need you to write it down in a journal in your notes section on a piece of paper. It doesn't even matter. Again, I think I wrote mine down on a napkin, on a probably one of those children's like coloring sheets because I figured some things out while I was eating brunch. Um, what do you really want? Ask yourself, what do I really want? In a perfect world, if I could snap my fingers today, what do I really want? Dream in color, make it specific. This is a very simple question, very powerful activity, but if you do it, figure out what you really want and follow the instructions, the vision, what you really want, prioritize and streamline, figure out the first steps to get you headed in that direction. Take away the fear, do the hard conversations, Make the hard choices and the sacrifices because it's your well-being that's on the line. So that's all I have for you on burnout. We're going to explore this topic more, but put in the chat whether you're watching this later, watching this now. What are some other topics you want to explore? I'm all about toxic, getting rid of toxic cultures, building better leaders so they aren't inheriting toxic traits from other leaders that they've seen. I'm all about how to balance leadership and well-being. Put in the chat. All of it's up for discussion. The last piece, and you can see it running across your ticker, is that I am on this quest to build better leadership development, especially for people of color. I felt, especially in my really big girl jobs, I felt like I was never prepared for the real world of leadership. I read leadership books, went to countless conferences since I was a teen. The best leadership development, it's a joke, but I'm not joking. Me and a colleague have said The Wire and Game of Thrones. It taught us strategy. It taught us people. It helped take the rose-colored glasses of, oh, Aaron, just give everybody the benefit of the doubt. It helped rip those off. It helped me to read people, how to read situations, how to take control, how to strategize, how to think 3 steps ahead. No books on leadership. It really doesn't. It doesn't really line up the cost. I know people say, okay, get senior leadership positions, get in the C-suite, you get more money. You see all of these things. You may see them on the outside where they need to be, but on the inside, most senior leaders, C-suite people, is not all glamorous behind the scenes. So I am attempting, and I'm going to do, it's going to be perfected. I'm attempting to build a professional development experience that really focuses on how to be a leader and not have it take over your whole life, right? How you can show up as your real self, how you can be authentic, how you can, because most times, Dr. Wheeler, the ED, the CEO looks good, but then if you peel behind the layers of most leaders who you look up to, their lives are a complete mess, right? And that's why I call my company Gracefully Productive. We make it look great, but the real success of it is very messy. And so the Wise Well Leader Summit is going to be a fabulous experience for about 15 leaders, entrepreneurs, pastors, executive directors, anybody in higher education and senior leadership, anybody who's aspired to be in senior leadership. This event is for you. So most conferences are jam-packed with talking heads, and you only go back to your busy life when you forget everything that they said, right? Or it's so jam-packed that you are tired from it, or they don't cover what we really need to know. How do you get, how do you deal with office politics? How do you deal with team members who are just disgruntled and disengaged? How do you really do that and keep your sanity at the same time and still make big waves, right? So the Wise Well Leader Summit is just going to be just that. It's 4 days for leaders of color to refuel, reset, reimagine what their personal lives. So we're going to do work on ourselves because you can't lead if you're unhappy, right? And we're going to do some work about teams or influencing people. It doesn't matter if you supervise 1 person, 0 people, but at some point you're going to have to interact with people, right? But it's not going to be jam-packed. We're going to rest. We're going to do some fun things. You're going to have time. It's not going to be workshop after workshop. It's not going to be a lot of people. You're going to make connections, and I'm so excited. I'm leading it, but I'm excited too. So join me in New Orleans this August 17th through the 20th. I am a very bougie chick, so it is going to be luxury. It's going to be at the Troubadour Hotel, good food, nights on the town. Like, it's going to be so dynamic that you're going to leave rested, and it's going to be one of those things that you're going to look forward to, right? It's going to be one of those things where you can pause and reset, and the rest of your year is going to go according to what you want to. So graceproductive.com/summit. Be sure to sign that mailing list so you can get all the details, updates. I will be doing a raffle to give away a free spot. So you have to be on that list to get it. Um, this is one of those things you can get your employer to pay for. I have a whole packet about leadership competencies that you can use in your employee evaluation and say, hey, this is going to check all these boxes. So I thought about everything, every excuse you're willing to make. There's payment plans, employer can pay. It's during the summertime, it's New Orleans. It could be fun. Like, I thought of everything. So there's no excuse for you not to be in the house. Very small group, limited seating, done on purpose. May go past 15. That's just if I have people on the waiting list. And so I'm so looking forward to you. Thank you so much for this first live. I text my friends that my stomach was in my throat, but I'm really enjoying it. And thank you so much. Follow me on my personal social media, Aaron Wheeler, PhD. I'm also building up my Gracefully Productive for content dedicated to this. That's at gracefully_productive.com. Instagram wouldn't let me have my way. And I'm seeing some topics. Thank you all for pitching me some topics. I'll definitely put them on my list. Politics in the workplace, yes. Bad work culture, poor management leadership, not being fully able to unplug. It's a thing. It's a real thing. I definitely am again in recovery for that. It's a struggle. Work-life balance, yes. Maurice, thank you for your suggestion. Definitely put on the list. Connecting a career to your purpose in life. Thank you. And so you can also, beyond the summit, I also do one-to-one appointments and coaching. I do have a limited amount of appointments available, but I offer free mini sessions just so you can get the feel. I know coaching is something that people of color aren't used to being in that repertoire of things we're using to get up the career ladder or just improve our lives, but want to change that narrative. So if you go to gracefullyproductive.com, you can see a form where you can schedule a 15-minute mini free consultation with me. And I actually walk through one small point or one small challenge that you're having just to give you a glimpse of what coaching is like. And I just really want to add value and help you. So thank you so much. Go check out the Wise World Leader Summit, gracefullyproductive.com/summit. Tell your friends. Make sure you get a meeting with your boss so they can approve you for professional development dollars towards this. It's going to be something that you definitely don't want to miss. So thank you. Thank you all. Have a good day.